made our resin molds. I have a whole pile of all of the different ones that I made. And now I'm going to show you how to attach them. So this is a plastic pot that I have painted. I showed you guys this in the video last week. Painted using salt wash and Rethunk Junk resin paint. And I'm going to attach the molds to the planter, and then we're going to paint them. So here is what I'm going to be using. This is what I have had a lot of luck with attaching these molds, and that is the E6000. You can get it in bigger tubes than this. This is just what we had at the store, so I grabbed some before I left. So these were made, most of these were made last night. Some of these molds I made like a week or so ago. So I did do some testing, and you can, because right now they're pretty firm. If you bend them too much, I think you can actually break them, because you know they're not very flexible. But I did test, and you can heat them up with a hair dryer. A heat gun would probably work better, but a hair dryer, about 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how thick the resin is. So for example, this bigger flower, which has thicker parts, this I heated up with my hair dryer on high for about a minute. This smaller one, for example, it's a lot thinner. This I only did for about 30 seconds. And then that's going to make them flexible so that I can attach them and bend them around this round planter a little bit better. Now, if you're just putting it on a flat surface, you're not going to need to go through this step of heating them up to re-soften them. And obviously, if you do this, if you glue them on pretty quickly after removing them from the mold, then you won't need to do this either. Although they do get pretty firm pretty quickly within about 5 or 10 minutes. So if you have a lot of curve that you're working with, I would recommend not letting it set totally. I would pop it out while it's about maybe 75 to 80% set, and then go ahead and glue it on your piece and bend it. I think that would probably give you the best results, but I haven't tested that, but that's just based on the little bit of experimentation that I have done. So I am not going to like lay these out or anything. I'm just going to kind of wing it a little bit, but let me show you guys. I have one done already. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. So I used several of the rose mold and the leaves, as you can see, and I actually, on one of them, let me see if I can find one here. So on this one, it has the leaf attached to the rosebud, and I was actually able to break it off because I wanted to use this leaf somewhere else in my little arrangement here. So again, you can break them. Again, it's going to depend on the shape and thickness of your design, you know, how easy that's going to be. But this is the look that I'm going for on this other planner. And I just glue these on with the E6000. This is a industrial strength adhesive, it says. So you want to be careful with it. You definitely don't want to get it on your skin. I've got a little popsicle stick here that I'm using if I need to. And then I painted it with, where is my paint? Here we go. This is some leftover paint I had from another project. This is Rethunk Junk, and it is like roughly a 50-50 mixture of Hydrangea Kiss and Farmhouse Navy. And this is a blend that I mixed up for a piece that I did for our living room. I'm sure I'll show that to you guys at some point. And I just had that left over. And so I mixed up, I've got a jar here, and I put some of the press and seal in it so that way I can reuse my jar. I don't have to throw that jar away. And I mixed up a little bit of salt wash in that paint because the look I'm going for is kind of this concrete look. So I wanted my roses to look like they were made from concrete too. So that's, you know, totally up to you how you're going to do your project and what kind of look you're going for, but I wanted this whole thing to have this kind of concrete feel, and so you can see the roses have that salt wash texture on them too, which I think is really pretty. That's definitely what I wanted to go for. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started gluing the molds to this pot. Okay, you guys, so I've got my pot here, my planter, and I've got my little pile of the rose molds that I'm going to be working with. And I'm just going to use my adhesive and we're going to glue them on. So I'm going to start with a smaller one that I don't really need to heat up, just so I can show you how to put it on. And then I'll show you guys how I do the rest, but we'll do that like at a little bit faster pace so that you can see how each one goes on. So I've got my E6000 here, this little tube. Again, you can buy these in bigger tubes. You can get it off of Amazon. I'll see if I can find a link and drop in the description. And just so you guys know, other than when I link to my store, I don't make any money off of the links that I share with you guys. I just think it's helpful so that you can go and find out exactly what I'm talking about. So I just put a good amount on. I really wanted to kind of get it to the edges. In fact, I'm going to spread this out a little bit. Now this stuff does start to dry pretty quickly. So the good news is it's not like you're going to have to sit here and hold it like you would with like a traditional glue. It's going to stay in place, but that does mean you don't have a super long time to work with it. So I'm just going to put it right there. And just make sure that it is pressed in all around. Now, if you're working with a flat surface, like on a flat piece of furniture, obviously that would probably be a little bit easier. And then I'm just gonna like lay out a couple here. Like I said, I don't necessarily lay out the whole design, but I like to do a couple at a time just to kind of see, where I think that they're gonna look the best. So I'm gonna put this big one up here, and then I'm gonna put this smaller one down here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get all of these put on, and I'm just gonna use the same process. I'm gonna squeeze out a little of the adhesive onto the mold. If I need to heat it up with the hairdryer, I'll do that first, put the adhesive on, and then just place it. And you can see this stuff, it keeps it in place while it dries, so that's very handy. So I'm gonna get all of these placed. Here, and I was just using the hairdryer at the end to try and dry some of the adhesive a little bit faster and try to get this one leaf to curve a little bit. So again, since these are going to be outside, I'm not worried about them being like super perfect, but definitely if I was doing this on furniture, I would be a lot more precise. Plus I've got this texture that I'm going to use, and so that's going to hide any of the imperfections as well. So let me just move all of this out of the way. So I've got this mixture with my Rethunk Junk resin paint. Again, this is a 50-50 mixture of Farmhouse Navy and Hydrangea Kiss. And I mixed up a little bit of salt wash in it to give it a little bit of texture as well. Here's my salt wash powder. And because I didn't want it to be too heavily textured, I used my little plastic spoon and I just added a little bit, like maybe half a teaspoon at a time to my paint until it was the texture that I wanted, which at the time that I mixed it last night, it was about the consistency of cake batter. It's thickened up a little bit since then, but that's okay. So I'm just using an older brush. You don't want to use a really good quality brush because it is going to be a little hard to wash all of this texture out of your brush. So you want to use an older brush or an inexpensive chip brush that you can use for other things. And I'm just kind of dabbing it on, and I wish I had a smaller brush. I should have brought a smaller brush home from the store, but I forgot to. This brush is a little bit bigger than what I would want to do these, to paint these flowers with, but it's what I had, so it's what I'm using. And I am getting some on the gray, as you can tell, but what I'm gonna do is when I'm all done, I'm gonna go back and use my little brush here for touching up. So I'm just trying to get this in all of the little rose petals and have it be even. I don't want big clumps of it in one section. I want it to, because then I'll lose the definition of the flowers. So I'm just kind of making sure it's spreading evenly over the mold. And just going for coverage here. All right, so I have my 2 planters done, and I think they turned out super cute. I'm really happy with how they look. So I'm gonna let these dry overnight tonight, let the paint salt wash mixture dry completely, let that adhesive dry completely, and then tomorrow I'm going to plant my plants in them, and I'll show you guys how they look in my garden. I have one more pot that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna use the other molds for that one. So I've got this one, and I'm gonna use these little medallions. These are from the Redesign with Prima mold called Etruscan Accent. And I'm going to attach them around and make like a border around it. So I'll show you guys how that one turns out too. All right, here are my finished pots in our garden, and I think they look really great, even without plants in all of them yet. I think they look super custom and way better than just the plain plastic pots that the plants came in. On this one here on the top, you can see I changed the plan a little bit. The border I was doing with the medallions didn't look good, so I did this little pattern instead, and I think it looks really cute. You can actually see it in the store. I took it down there as a display. Here's some lemongrass in my other pot. And overall, I'm really happy with how they look, and I think they just add something a little extra to the garden. And here is Maggie, and she approves as well, I think. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this project. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. Would love to answer any questions that you guys have. And tune in next week for another project. I got a few messages from you guys after last week's video asking where were the chicks. Here is this week's update. You can see they're doing great. They're enjoying a little treat here, and they're growing super fast. So all is well in the chicken coop. If you enjoy our little chicken videos, make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook, because we post little video clips and updates on them there as well. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.